With the release of The Final Reckoning, we now have 8 Mission Impossible films, so today I thought it was time for me to stop and rank all 8 Mission Impossible films, ranked from the worst to the best. Please know that everything that I will say in this video is just my very own opinion. My name is SDub Nation, and you are free to comment down below your very own ranking of all 8 Mission Impossible films ranked from the worst to the best, just like me, or you could just do your favorite. My list is certainly not the right list. It's just my list, and you guys are free to comment down below yours. Please don't forget to check out that Twitter and that TikTok link. Those are in the description. With all that being said, guys, like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get right into our ranking. Kicking off our list at number 8 for me has got to go to Mission Impossible 2. Look, I'm a sucker for early 2000 films. Scooby-Doo is my favorite movie of all time. That came out in 2002. So I think this one provides enough fun, you know, with the villain. I think the villain is actually pretty fun, and the action scenes are kind of dynamic in a sense. But other times, this film is edited to pieces. The pacing is very weird. It takes too long to get going. And the treatment of his lead women is just plain weird because they treat women more so as sex objects. And, you know, what else is the purpose of a woman? They literally say that inside of the film. I just really hated the way that they treated his lead women in the film.
But to go to bed with a man and lie to him, she's a woman. She's got all the training she needs.
I think Ethan is also drastically different here. He's a little bit more flirty than he's supposed to be. They try to make him into a James Bond character, but make him cool, and it just doesn't work in my opinion. It's just not of the same quality as the other films. Number 7, we have Mission Impossible. Is the original the first? This is a huge jump from 2 to this. 2 is the only film that I actually don't like on this list. I like or love all the other films on this list. So one thing about this film that I really appreciate more than anything is the fact that it's the one film in the series that's a full-on mystery, doused in suspense. You know, the whole idea that Ethan is framed for the murder of his team, and then we're going on this mystery with him. We are Ethan Hunt trying to solve what happened to them. And I think it works. But at times, it does feel like it gets a little bit too much into the suspense to the point where I'm like, all right, what's going on? What's happening? And you spend most of the movie out of the loop. You're just as clueless as Ethan. And in some cases that works. For other films that works. For this one, each time I watch it, I'm like, okay, what's happening here? What's going on? The scenes feel weird, but it's the start of this entire franchise with some iconic scenes and some action spectacle. Though it is pretty tame, not as big and lively as the other films on this list, which is why it's down a little bit lower, because I just prefer the blockbusters rather than the suspense and the mystery. Number 6, Dead Reckoning, no longer called Dead Reckoning Part 1. The whole world loved this movie. They praised the movie. In fact, it dropped with a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. Sean Chandler put it as his number 1 favorite Mission Impossible film, and I just didn't feel that way. I liked it, but I walked out of it saying, okay, I saw it in 40X, so that was a cool experience, but once the seats stopped rocking, I was like, all right, what am I doing here? Like, am I truly a Mission Impossible fan? Because I'm not enjoying this as much as I think I should. I only like the action sequences, really. They go bigger and bolder with the spectacle that entertained me. So, like I said, when I was in the 40X screening, it was a roller coaster of excitement. I was invested. And then when the seats stopped for the plot, I was just bored. The AI plot is entirely conceptual, and they didn't go as far into the paranoia as I felt like they should have. In some cases, like the scene in Venice when Ilsa dies, okay, that's when I thought it was finally finding its footing with the paranoia scenarios. And then they just never went back to that. As global as the stakes are and personal the threat is, I'd rather watch the other films. Our top 5, Rogue Nation. Christopher McQuarrie's first film explores some interesting ideas and begins to start a trend of consistency within the films up to this point. Most of them have been standalone, so it's nice to get introduced to some characters that are here to stay and even some world building in there. The story is pretty cohesive here, and I also appreciate the style of the film. The action, again, entertaining. In particular, the opera scene, I love that. But I'm giving the film all these praises. Yeah, it has some big spectacle. Yeah, the characters are all likable. Yeah, it's a good movie. It just has that Fast and Furious 6 problem for me, where I know it's good. I saw it. I know it's good. I just can't remember a single thing about it. I can't remember a single reason why I liked the film. Just like with Fast 6. I know, I watched it. I liked it. But why? Why is that? And yeah, this movie's just not as memorable as the others. Still better than the bottom three, though. At number 4, we have the newest addition to the franchise, The Final Reckoning. This was at number 3, but I just think that my number 3 just is a little bit better here. I think the critics are weird when it came to this film. It's really good. I just don't understand what the deal was. A lot of people say that it was messy. I don't see it. There's a lot of mumbo jumbo here, and there's a lot of coincidences. It could be messy. I'm not gonna lie. It could be messy. But look, the exposition is a little bit too much at times. Yes, and the runtime is a little too long. If they cut out 12 minutes, this film would have sung so much better. But I don't care, because once you get past all of that exposition, this has some of the best action in the series, some of the best emotional moments, some of the best moments in general inside of the entire franchise. I mean, I love that biplane and the submarine action sequences. I also think that because it's a part 2, it's able to pay off what was set up in the first part in Dead Reckoning. But also, it just comes full circle by the end, pulling in things from the first film, from the third film. Hey, remember that thing from the fourth film? Yeah, that has consequences here. And I just think that it rounds out this entire franchise with a nice little bow. It's hard enough closing out a trilogy, but imagine closing out a 30-year franchise and still manage to keep me entertained, emotional, and thrilled. I think this is an absolute win for Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie. Top 3 list, Mission Impossible 3. I know a lot of people have this lower on their list. Not me. I think it's the rawest of all the films. Like, it just looks cool. It's so cool to watch. I love Mission Impossible 3, man. I love it. I love this movie. It's the one that dazzles in special effects for me. You know, a lot of the other films are a little bit more practical, and it's great to see that practicality. But it was also pretty cool to see some of the special effects inside of this film and how it recharges the franchise for me with new energy. Look, I watched the first film and watched the second film, and I was like, okay, come on, Mission Impossible, get me going. Everybody's saying this is the most consistent franchise. Sean Chandler saying there's not one bad movie, you know, in this franchise. But I just watched 2 of them, and you know, I'm not impressed. Man, I go to 3. Say what you want about J.J. Abrams, man, but he brought in some intensity to the action and just the plain old scenes. Philip Seymour Hoffman, in my opinion, is the villain that stands out the most to me out of all of these films. I also love the chemistry between the cast, the quips that are going inside of this film, because it feels like, yeah, this is the third film. Everybody's kind of, you know, used to each other. Let's have some quips, man. And I think that works. We can have quips. We can have some fun. The action is intense and heart racing. The mission is memorable. It's also like a little darker than the other films before and the ones that came later. Overall, man, Mission Impossible 3 has so much to love. I'm surprised people don't have it higher. My runner-up, Ghost Protocol, possibly the most fun and lighthearted film of the franchise. Everyone seems like they're having a blast here in this sleek, 60s-inspired spy film. It's the one that feels most like a spy film and has the second most nail-biting action scene, that being the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. I think it's second to the biplane action sequence inside of Final Reckoning. I love off-the-grid stories, and Brad delivers a film that's more Bourne than Bond. The villain isn't particularly memorable to me, but the film itself is enjoyable. I see it as a burst of adrenaline on screen. But coming into my number 1 for me has got to go to Fallout. It was either this or Ghost Protocol. About 2 years ago, I put Ghost Protocol as my number 1. I gotta say, man, I love this film. It's the perfect summer blockbuster. And you know, a little story here, it's not gonna be that long, but a little story is that back in 2018, I remember when people were racing out to the theaters to see the new Mission Impossible film. And then people were coming back home saying, yeah, this is the best of the franchise. This is the best action movie of all time. And I'm like, why is it so good? I watched it 2 years ago, and I'm like, holy, this is incredible. Henry Cavill shines in roles like this. I want to see him in more villain roles, man. He was great. He pulled out the physicality, pulled off the action sequences, all great. For me, it's the most accessible Mission Impossible film for the new audiences, and every action sequence is exciting and memorable. In particular, that Halo Skyfall sequence, my jaw was dropped when I watched that for the first time. It's so much fun, fast paced, and it doesn't let its foot off the gas pedal, man. I think it also gives a nice personal story to Ethan. Dude, Fallout is everything you want from a blockbuster, from a summer blockbuster, from an action film. Definitely see Fallout if you haven't. This is why Mission Impossible Fallout has to come in at number 1. Alright guys, that is it for the ranking. Please know that everything that I did say in this video was just my very own opinion. My list was certainly not the right list. It was just my list, and you are free to comment down below your very own ranking of all 8 Mission Impossible films ranked from the worst to the best, just like me, or you could just do your favorite. Please don't forget to check out that Twitter and that TikTok link. Those are in the description. And with all that being said, guys, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Peace.